Okay, so now I'd like to introduce our next moderator, Captain Darrin Dorn. Darrin is an Army Special Ops veteran, not a Marine, but an Army Special Ops veteran. And oh, boy. I asked for that, didn't I? Okay. Well, Jesse, you're a Marine? No? Yeah? All right. Okay. All right. And flies the Boeing 737 for a major airline. He serves as the chairman for his pilot group security committee and on ALPA International Security Group as vice chairman. He's been an award winner of various security awards. Darrin, the floor is all yours, sir.
Thanks, Gerald. I thought we were going to go away with the inter-service jokes, but rest assured, my Marine jokes, I got a bunch of them. So we got Lowell's a former Marine. We got former Sergeant Major Jesse Lay up here, and Mr. Sarandrea is an old paratrooper, so I think the Army's going to rule the panel up here today. So, hey, everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to our third panel discussion today at the Aviation Security Conference. I'm Captain Darrin Dorn. I'm the Vice Chairman of Security. As a strong supporter of the FFDO program, I have a privilege of moderating our distinguished panel today. The subject we will be discussing is the future vision of the FFDO program. I'd like to remind everyone today that this is a public forum, and due to the sensitive security information of the FFDO program, we ask that please avoid any questions in regard to SSI. Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a strong supporter of the program since its inception. With that said, I'd like to offer some opening thoughts to begin our discussion today. The Federal Flight Deck Officer program is an essential element, a deterrence to potential terror attacks on board aircraft. Our nation and our industry greatly benefit from the willingness of the airline pilots to make significant personal sacrifices to ensure the security of this critical component of our nation's transportation infrastructure. ALPA was the first organization to call for a creation of the FFDO program, which became a reality when the Arming Pilots Against Terrorism Act was enacted as part of the Homeland Security Act of 2002. As we transition to a new administration and the FFDO program is realigned under the TSA Office of Law Enforcement, ALPA's outlook toward the future of this essential program is extremely optimistic. Our guest panelists today all share the necessary vision, knowledge, and experience to effectively drive the focus of the program forward. With that being said, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our panelists today. To my left is Mr. Sarandrea, Deputy Assistant Administrator, TSA Office of Law Enforcement, Federal Air Marshal Service. To his left is Mr. Jesse Lay, the Program Manager, Aviation Programs Branch, TSA, Office of Law Enforcement, Federal Air Marshal Service. Jesse was a late addition, and thank you for being here today, Jesse. Next to Jesse is Mr. Lowell Dimoff. Lowell is the Special Agent in charge of the FFDO training at the Federal Air Marshal Service Training Center, Atlantic City, New Jersey. And at the very end down there is First Officer Bill Cason. Bill's the chairman of the Independent Pilot Association's Security Committee. Panelists, thank you. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. I'll now ask that each panelist provide a brief opening statement on our subject, after which we'll begin our roundtable discussion. So Deputy Administrator Sarandrea, the floor is yours, sir.
Good afternoon, ALPA. Thank you for having me today. About a year ago, one of my counterparts in TSA said, hey, we're thinking about bringing the FAMs back to, bringing back the FFDO program back to FAMs. And I can't tell you how excited I was. And they were like, oh, why would you be so interested in that? And I said, we have one of the largest in-flight security programs within TSA, and compared to all the ones around the world, and why not be the world's biggest in-flight security program by combining those elements of both FFDO and FAMs? And here we are today, with the largest in-flight armed security program in the world. And I think working together, we really can do some great things together. I know very much about the threat. We've heard it over and over again today, and I believe our adversaries are very much out there to take down one of our aircraft, whether it's ISIL, whether it's Al-Qaeda or Al-Shabaab. I think their ultimate goal is to take one of our aircraft down. Do I think we have the right mitigation in place? Yes, I do. I've looked at it very carefully. We all lose a lot of sleep over that, but I think we are postured very well to handle the threat in the upcoming years, months, and today and tomorrow as we look at it. And I got to tell you, not a day goes by that my staff isn't working hard at finding ways to advance our capabilities. one of the things I believe in, that there's 5 elements to in-flight security, and I focus mostly on in-flight security. I support all the other elements within TSA on their initiatives, but every time I sit at the table with them, I'm looking at that perspective from in-flight security. We have a lot of trained officers, a lot. We're covering thousands of flights every day, combined with FFDO and Federal Air Marshals out there, and they're very well trained. They're very well equipped. They're dedicated. They have the right information. Do I think we need to do more work on getting information out to FFDOs? Absolutely, and that's something I'm going to work on. And are we in the right place? Are we on the highest risk flights out there? So that's something that I take very serious. As Congressman Kako says, I've seen his staff multiple times over the past year about defending our programs and making sure we're funded and we're properly, and they're very much aware of how we're moving forward on how we're to make sure we're in the right place and doing the right things. And as I was being told that, hey, we're going to get the FFDO program over to FAMS, I started looking at the staffing numbers and what was out there and where they were located, and I had my propeller heads, as I like to call them, my strategic planners look at, okay, what flights are being covered across the nation and the world that FFDO covered, and then I want to have them combined, an analysis, a comparison analysis of what FAMs are covering. We found a 3% overlap, and the overlap is in the right place. They're very much like the flights coming into here and other places. And not that I want my FAMs to not interact with FFDOs, but I want to work on that 3%. I want to be able to cover down on more flights and high risk. So if there's an FFDO on the flight, I believe the threat is highly mitigated. I know they can handle whatever comes at them. I need my air marshal to be on the next high-risk flight. If there's another flying armed law enforcement officer on that flight, I want to be able to push my air marshal onto the next high-risk flight. If there's a known or suspected terrorist or a selectee flying on that flight, well, my air marshals are going to be on that flight. So you can have no doubt about that if it's a U.S. flagged air carrier. So we're working on advancing our scheduling system and using all the data feeds, secure flight, vulnerability assessments, intel information, across the whole enterprise to make sure we're on the highest risk flights. And it was very interesting to see when we did the analysis of all the flights that FFDOs are flying on, they're on all the right flights. And there was a small percentage that was out there covering flights that I'm not so sure we needed to cover, but we need to maintain that randomization. So that actually is a plus up for us as well. So it really is coming together as a concept of operations for both programs to look at the blanket of security moving forward. And I think that risk methodology is very critical to justifying our future, but making sure we're doing everything in the right direction. We want to cover down our layer of security as much as possible in flight. And I'm not just doing that within the United States. So we work very closely with the Canadians just recently. And most of our in-flight security officers, internationally based, we've worked tactics with them. We've best practiced tactically for years. Everybody was kind of holding their risk methodology and how they planned and scheduled their flight coverage close to the chest. You know, for, of course, intelligence and sensitivities of how they do it, and they don't want any one of their adversaries to get that information. So the Canadian, our counterparts in Canada came in January, and they opened up their books, we opened up our books, and we had this dynamic conversation that I thought was incredible. And as we were sitting down thinking about it, we said, we need to do this more. So we're going to do that this summer. We're going to bring in the 5 or 6 other countries, and we're going to look at their risk methodologies, their approaches to doing it. So we're not just the blanket of what we're doing for our U.S. air carriers, but also the foreign air carriers out there and how they're handling it and how we can work with them in sharing information. So if they know there's a bad person on that flight, or we know there's a bad person on that flight, and we can't fly on that flight, they can put coverage on that flight and enhance us multiple steps forward. And then one of the other things I wanted to pass on to you today, because Jesse it's been almost 3 months now, and Jesse's been teaching me a lot about the program that I didn't know before, and the international presence. So you have an international presence. I think we could do more with that. There's more that I need to learn about it. It's going to take some work with our international partners, but why not? We know that those last points of departures are a big concern for us. I'm putting a tremendous amount of my assets on those flights to cover down on that and mitigate that threat. But why can't we share in the wealth in that? I think it's possible. And I realize I can control where the FAMs go, and you go by where you're scheduled. but there's no reason why those schedules aren't very close to what our air marshals are flying out there. I think it's going to be a great combination of working together in the future. So that's one of the things I'm taking away as an action, and I'm just starting to work on. And then another one that I really think we're looking at is the access control. So you've heard today, and I think there's been there's some other message that went out on how it's coming into you're able to come into the airports much easier. And I think that's going to be a big plus up for us. And Jesse has hinted to me that maybe some of the FFDOs that have left in the past years may see that as a good thing for us and maybe want to come back and join the program. I think that would be tremendous. We've filled up all of our classes for this year, and we're hoping to fill out the classes next year. And if we can get those that want to come back to the program, I think that's huge. And then some of the little simple things. When you're part of an operational component of TSA, you'll have more visibility, and I think it's the right place to be. We've looked at some policy reviews. One of the things in there was an access control policy that was out there, and it had FFDOs listed as other, where it had all the other law enforcement officers in the United States listed, and it said other. I said it was one of the first things we started working on. Get rid of that and put it in the right place. These little things will help out the program tremendously, I think, in the future. Taking baby steps, trying to figure out where we need to do, but we'll get further along. I think there's a lot more that we can do in the months and years to come. Thank you. Jesse?
Jesse?
I'm Jesse Lay. I'm the branch manager of the FFDO program, and I have been so since October of 2014. First of all, I'd like to thank Captain Knoll, Captain DePete, my good friend Wolfgang, and Darrin, of course, and everybody else that's supported us in ALPA. I think the program has a great relationship with you all. You have supported me more than I could ever ask for over the last couple of years. Great partnership, and we really believe in what ALPA stands for and the help that we get in TSA, especially in FFDO program. This program has grown majorly over the last 2 years. We've really got a lot of good things going on. The numbers are increasing. I mean, I can't share with you exactly how many pilots we have out there now, but we have increased way beyond where I ever thought we would be. I will tell you, in FY16, FFDOs flew just about 1 million missions. That is huge. That means you have the last line of defense, an armed pilot on board an aircraft of at least close to 1 million missions, and this year we're going to do better. We'll be over 1 million missions flown. And that's not just the passenger side, that's cargo side, as you well know. So we've got quite a few cargo FFDOs out there that are also supporting the program. I want to talk just a little bit about our transition from the Office of Training and Development over to the Office of Law Enforcement. Absolutely the best move that this program could have done. I spent the last 2 years under the Office of Training and Development, and we've moved over under the Office of Law Enforcement. We are a law enforcement entity, and we are exactly where we belong. Some of the things that Mr. Sarandrea, my new boss, immediate boss, just got done alluding to, we did not and could not have had that kind of support working under the Office of Training and Development. So where we are now is where we should be, and I know that we're going to be able to push the program to much greater heights. This thing about the KCM piece, for you FFDOs that are sitting out there, you know as well as I know, we've fought and fought and fought for the last couple of years together as a team to try and make that happen because it made perfect sense. One of the most vetted persons at an airport is a pilot, and then of course the vetting that we do for the FFDO program even goes far beyond that. Our goal is to make it as easy for you to get to your aircraft as we possibly can. And looks like we're going to be able to do some of that. I know we just had some changes with the logbook situation at the Leo access point. That has also been a big help. And so one of the things Mr. Sarandrea alluded to was folks coming back in reinstatements. I would ask for you FFDOs that are sitting out there now, talk to guys. Talk to the folks that have been trained already. If they're interested in coming back, please reach out to the program. We'd love to have them back. We want our numbers to increase. Right now, I will tell you our budget issues are kind of unknown. You know, we, like any other government organization working under continuing resolution, we currently have enough money to do everything that we need to do right now. We've made some real progress over the last year or so with new holsters, new mag pouches, things that make it better for you. Very positive feedback on all the new equipment and so forth that we're providing. I guess I'll wrap up just by saying this. There are 28 people that represent you in the program office that support you to make sure that you have all the things that you need. And there are another 12 or 15 folks that work for this guy over here. He does all of our training for us and supports us with the training. Our motto is this: we support the armed pilot at 35,000 feet. We make sure that you're trained, make sure you got the right equipment to do what you're supposed to do. We absolutely look at you as the last line of defense, because I will tell you, if anything fails, if someone gets through the checkpoint with a firearm, if someone gets into the airport with a firearm, if someone gets on board the aircraft and gets by a gate agent with a firearm, the last person on board that aircraft, if that aircraft has no federal air marshals, or even if it does, the last guy to save that bird from becoming a weapon of mass destruction is our federal flight deck officer. That is so important and so critical to aviation security. So, to ALPA, thank you very much for your support. We could not do it without these organizations that do support us and fight for us along the way. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Lowell Dimoff. I'm the Supervisory Air Marshal in charge of the TSA Training Center in Atlantic City. First off, I would like to thank ALPA and everybody for having me here. I'm quite honored to be a member of this panel and to speak to you today. So I have the facility up in Atlantic City. I also manage a satellite office at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center out in Artesia, New Mexico, which is where FFDO initial training takes place. And I have a satellite office down in Dallas, Texas, which is where one of the sites where Federal Flight Deck Officer recurrent training could take place. So our mission as the TSA Training Center in Atlantic City is to provide all the law enforcement training within the organization. That includes training for our federal air marshals, basic training when they first take the job, which occurs in 2 phases, out in Artesia and then back in Atlantic City. We also develop, deploy, and administer the advanced training program for the Federal Air Marshal Service, which is to certify all their instructors. When FAMs need to come home or come back to get additional skill sets, we develop that and we roll that out. We also roll out and manage the recurrent training program for the Federal Air Marshal and their various field offices. Every Federal Air Marshal has to receive a minimum of 20 days of training per calendar year. There's other requirements, weapons qualification, et cetera. We certify all their instructors and develop their curriculum for that. One of my greatest pleasures and honors is overseeing the training program for the FFDO program. I find the FFDOs to be outstanding professionals. They're patriots. They come in, they're motivated, they want to train, they want to work hard, and they want to be that last line of defense, and I'm honored to work with them. So what we have been doing is we've been trying to find ways, and I think we've been successful, of making that training time more productive, and to increase the numbers of the seats that we make available for our federal flight deck officers. Working with Mr. Lay's unit, we've been able to increase the classes, the number of classes and the class seats that are offered in initial training out in Artesia. This next fiscal year, we'll be able to offer more seats than we've ever done before, close to 1,500 seats in 1 year, which is fantastic. We, of course, have the Dallas site that's set up. We're looking to do some more efficiencies with that program as well. Out in Artesia, one thing that we did that we're very proud of, that used to be about a 5.5-day package for those of you that went prior to January of this year. We were able to do some rescheduling. We added some staff out there. We went to a port and starboard rotation with some of our practical exercises. And in short, we were able to recoup those 5 hours that were spent on Saturday so that the class actually finishes up and graduates on Friday, so that they can get out of the desert a little bit earlier, open up some more flight opportunities for them to get home. We're very proud of that. Down in our recurrent training facilities, both in Atlantic City and Dallas, we've done some other things to make it a little bit better, a little bit more hands-on. We've taken out the tough tie course. We've replaced that with more hands-on, close quarter combat training. And we are also increasing our facilities out in Artesia to help to control the throughput that we're going to have. We're working with Jesse's group. We're building a new facility. Once it's complete, we're going to have a 70 by 70 dimension mat room. It's going to be the largest single mat room in FFDO campus that we could train in. We're refreshing some of our judgmental pistol training systems. We are expanding the size of the classroom, and we are adding an additional JPS system to the facility out there. So again, I'm very honored to be here. I'm very proud of the accomplishments that we've made working with Mr. Lay's group to improve the program.
Bill?
Thank you. My name is Bill Cason. I'm the chairman of the Security Committee for the Independent Pilots Association. Very privileged to be here and to be invited. We enjoy a very good relationship with ALPA. We work on several issues together. And so, like I said, it's a privilege to be here and talk to you guys and be up here with these fine gentlemen. I represent, another all-cargo airline, which is not the all-cargo airline that was mentioned previously. Another color, not purple. I'll just say it's brown. You may know who that is, but I'll tell you, I guess Jesse will tell you that, when we get together and meet, which we do every quarter, and those meetings are important to us and it's something that we look forward to. I spend a lot of time talking about cargo issues, and so that's kind of my bailiwick in terms of what I bring to the table. And I can tell you, under the leadership of these guys, which is Jesse and Jim and Mr. Sarandrea now, and being under OLE, we're making progress that we haven't made in a long time. And Jim Krause will tell you, and Mike Keene, who's sitting in the audience, will tell you that unfortunately, these guys sometimes move on, and we tend to be the steadfast partners that continue on. So when we say that we're making unprecedented progress in the last couple of years, we say that from coming from a point of September 11th and moving forward. So that's a real positive. So in terms of cargo stuff, I mean, we're having we were able to host a meeting in Louisville, and go look at some of our airplanes and some of the proximity of our jump seaters and proximity of our couriers and other type passengers that we carry on our airplanes, and realize there is some room there to work on things. So we had a working group put together, and we had Nick, with his group in Louisville. It seemed like 2 weeks later, and we were talking about things like reactionary gaps and retention and use of flashlights, because we fly at night a lot. Not the passenger guys don't, but that's that's where we are a lot. And movement around the cockpit. So in the 747-400, which we have, that's a big area up top where we have a lot of corners and stuff. And I can tell you, Darrin will tell you as a law enforcement guy that you could spend weeks and hours just talking about how to use a flashlight with a gun or how to move around corners and things like that. So we feel like there's some room there for the cargo FFDO to get some extra training, and these guys responded almost immediately. So there's things that we're doing right away, and there's things that we're going to try to do in terms of familiarization later on. So I thank them for that. Also, something that I'm certainly glad to be mentioned on the panel was this idea of FFDOs being incorporated into a risk-based scenario. I do think there is room for that. I think there's room for discussion. Under OLE is the place to do it. Really it's just about information, because FFDOs, we bid preferential bidding and things like that. If we knew where the need was, we could do more to be more risk-based, I think, and in terms of the platforms that we fly, the routes that we choose. And there was a time when there was a presidential inauguration or a Super Bowl, that kind of information could go out to FFDOs. And some of this bidding is just arbitrary. And if I'm an FFDO and I could lay over here or lay over there, maybe I'll pick the secondary if that would help this program and maybe get better metrics. So there's room for discussion there. And so I think the day-to-day stuff is really where we lie in terms of working with these guys and making it a better experience. And it's getting better and better, but there's always room for improvement. And I can tell you, with the way we enter the airport now and with this new KCM initiative that Jesse mentioned, it's an incredible movement forward. We'd like to see some, talk through some military-style leave for FFDOs that are having to do training events. Sometimes we're not able to bid off those events, and it'd be nice to partner with the airlines to do that. And also, I think, we're going to have to look at our carriage protocol sometime, and that's something that is important to us as we move around and have a third bag and things. I know that's probably somewhere down the road, But we look forward to partnering with this group, and as the end users, the guys that, like Jesse said, not only provide the last line of defense, but the first line of deterrence, we'll be able to continue to have that really great steadfast partnership that we've enjoyed here for the last couple of years. So thank you.
All right, thanks, Bill. Guess we'll start it off with me. Probably Mr. Sarandrea, you or Jesse, can you elaborate on what the realignment of the program under OLE brings in regards to advantages or disadvantages to the FFDO program?
Sure. But if I could, before we start, I have to digress to the last panel. I contacted our TSA Office of Intelligence Analysis, and they do all the vetting for the passengers coming and back and forth. And they're looking into it, but they believe that the animal handler's name would go and date of birth would go on the manifest and go through APIS, and they would be bounced off the watch list in the process. So they do get a vetting process, and it all depends upon when that manifest comes in. And then sometimes they're on the crew members list as well when they would come through. So they're looking at that, and they're going to get back to us. So we will get back to you on that to find exactly what goes there and if there is some gap that we can fix.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern. I'm not sure if Preston is still in the audience or Rich, but that vetting of that supernumerary or that animal handler or so forth is a critical component. Again, I think the example was I've got a California driver's license because they're not required to possibly be a citizen, and then I've got a Guatemalan passport and a visa and so forth. So
When I first asked them, they wanted to know if the horse was being vetted or not. Let's start over again.
okay. So as we look at that, when we had that realignment that just occurred under OLE, are there distinct advantages or disadvantages?
There's tremendous advantages. I touched on most of them in my opening remarks. I cannot identify a disadvantage at all at this time. I see only good things that we can support each other in moving forward. We've already started presenting everybody's concerned with the budget process, where we've been up on the Hill at least once a week, maybe twice a week sometimes, explaining our programs to new staffers, new elected officials. We're looking for a new administrator, so there's a lot of actings out there. So we really won't be able to move forward officially until we get the budget and we educate our new administrator. But I really think we're in a very strong position moving forward from here. I really do. And I think the world of OTD, but we're under the Chief Operating Officer for TSA now. All their operational components are there, and we're able to drive the supporting elements to help us out and get our mission done more effectively. So I think it's in the right place. One minor disadvantage, my wife worked for Jesse for a couple of years, and she can't work there anymore, but that's the only disadvantage I've found, and she misses it. She loved the FFDO program. She was very passionate about it. We both worked in Manhattan on 9/11, and this mission is more than just a job to us, but that's just a side note. But Jesse?
That wasn't the only disadvantage. The other disadvantage is now that I live underneath the flagpole. We were always housed under Federal Air Marshal Service, even when I worked in OTD. Made it pretty nice, when your boss is downtown and you're there. Well, now my boss is down the hallway. So that can be an advantage and a disadvantage. Actually, it's a real advantage for us.
We communicate. I mean, it's been tough because our director was in the chief of staff role for a while. He's back, so it's working great. We communicate on a daily, weekly basis. So the information's moving back and forth, and it goes right up to where I'm in the front office. So if there's an initiative, there's an issue. These new access capabilities, I think it would have taken months, if not years, to get it done. We were able to push the other leaders within TSA to help us out in the process, and it worked out well. Yeah.
I think the biggest advantage is a law enforcement entity working for a law enforcement agency. So important. And I can bring things to Eric, he understands right away. He understands risk-based analysis and understands what we talk about when we're talking about having more than one gun on board an aircraft, and we're talking about FAMs being on board along with an FFDO. Is there a better way of doing that? And so now we're being able to look at FFDO schedules and how we pair them up, whether big birds, little birds, those kind of things. It makes so much sense to be where we're at right now.
Awesome. Lowell, I've got one. With the ever-increasing threats that our traveling public and flight crews face, Bill touched on a little bit. Do you see an area where FFDOs could receive additional training up at a FLETC location or more, preferably ACY, with close combat or defensive tactics, defensive measures, advanced pistol shooting, a tactical combat casualty. These courses, non-instructor based, but courses that would provide an additional skill set and enhanced training opportunities for that FFDO?
Yes, sir, I do. We'll have to look at that, and we'll have to work at the program office to make sure that we're completely scoped. However, part of our mission is we manage the FLETC allocations that the TSA utilizes for all of its law enforcement officers. So in other words, I get those FLETC seats for those advanced courses. For expectation purposes, FLETC is gearing up and they're getting ramped up for the potential hiring of thousands of Border Patrol officers and immigrations officers if the administration goes in that direction. So they are specifically indicating to us that they're going to be reducing the majority of their advanced and instructor level courses, but that's okay because we also offer those courses at the training center up in Atlantic City. And one thing that we've been doing, Jesse and I, and that I would like to continue to do, is we've been trying to integrate FAM training and FFDO training more. We've written a few scenarios that we utilize during recurrent training now where FFDOs are on the flight deck and they're responding to a scenario, and there's actually a FAM team in the back of the aircraft also responding to the same scenario, so that we could practice our potential blue on blue or hopefully mitigate that possibility. So I do see that opportunity. I think that we could definitely look at it, and there's a lot of things that we have within our existing curriculum that may be beneficial to you.
Awesome. Bill, you touched a little bit on risk-based security. How does IPA see the FFDO fitting into that RBS?
Well, I think that, I'm fortunate to sit on the ASAC and the Aviation Security Advisory Committee, and so the reason why it's important to me is because it's what we talk about a lot, okay? So it represents longevity to the program. So we can talk about how efficient FFDO is and what a great layer of security is, and it is. It is. And we hope that these guys will stay in positions for a long time, but they don't. They stay for a while, and then they unfortunately have to move on. So sometimes it's better than others. With this group, I can tell you I wish they were here forever. But so the reason and you guys may have probably seen that, every couple of years we're talking about FFDO, right? We're talking about budget. We're talking about, getting cut, or whether we're talking about just in the last couple of months, whether it's on the chopping block of Trump's budget, all those things. Fortunately, those things were, I think, was elevated, and not necessarily all true. But the reason why it's important that we integrate into a risk-based model as FFDO is because it increases the longevity of the program. And I think we can do that. I think FFDO seems to kind of always be that random factor, and every RBS needs randomness, right? We have that in just about every RBS program that's out there. But I think and it's really just about information. So an FFDO, if he's aware of where flights are needed to be covered, I think we'll work toward that. I think if FFDO is aware that maybe the mission he's flying in a couple of weeks is one of those really high value missions, look, we're pilots. We do all kind of finagling of schedules and moving stuff around and calling in sick and all kinds of stuff, right? So if we knew that was the high value asset, right, that we really should be on, well, that will be part of our thought process in moving forward, and maybe that could allow Mr. Sarandrea to move maybe one of those FAMs somewhere else. So I think by the biggest reason we need to look at RBS and how it kind of centers around an FFDO program is how we can continue to be valuable to the TSA and be valuable in a long-term scenario. And like I said, these guys have the right attitude, and we're starting to see that. Being under OLE is the very best first step.
Please step to a microphone if you can.
I was just curious if you've done any studies. There's going to be a tremendous amount of retirements between now and around 2024, and how many of those might be FFDOs, and what you're doing to educate younger pilots to become interested in the program and fill the ranks.
Well, so you're right, and we do. We have mandatory retirements. When you retire from the airline, of course, I have to collect your gear and your gun and all that stuff. A couple of the things that we've just recently tried to do is open up some things for retiring FFDOs to support the program. And so some are now looking at being RFIs or LFIs at those 26, 33 ranges now, which I told you. So we've opened that up where we have some active FFDOs are now secondary firearms instructors at those ranges. But you're right. So right now, for probably the next 3 years, we average between 300 and 500 mandatory retirements per year. And another reason why it's so important that we keep our classes full. And one of the things we've done is we've come up with a new brochure for federal flight deck officers. We passed that to stakeholders, to different airlines. We've actually gone out to some of the ops. We've got good relationships with the airlines. We've actually gone out to some of the ops rooms at different locations, different airports, and talked to pilots that are getting ready to go out and catch their flight and be gone, and that's opened up some doors for us. So we are actively recruiting. We're looking for folks who think they might want to be a federal flight deck officer, to, in fact, apply. There's going to come a time, I think, that we're going to have to look at alternate places for initial training because the load that's out on Artesian now, as Lowell referred to, as that's where they train Border Patrol agents. We have maxed out every class that we can fill for the rest of this fiscal year. We've got over 1,000 already for next year. I'll just give you just a little tidbit of information. When I first took over the program, we were training between 250 and 350 a year. 2014, we trained 349. We are well on our way of training over 1,000 this year. And it will be more than that next year. And last year, we trained over 750. So we've got a lot of interest in the program, and I think it's basically based upon some of the initiatives that we're doing and trying to make it a worthy program for pilots to volunteer for. So does that answer your question? Hope.
If I could just add one element to that as well. So it's been many years now, 16, 17 years, since we've had a hijacking in the United States. And I think it's because their adversaries know we're out there, and they're very concerned about failure in doing it, and the embarrassment, which is a great thing. I don't think we do enough to advertise our presence out there. It is a tremendous deterrence across the world. The Canadians do it. They have advertisement about their program. So we put an IPT together about a year ago, and they're starting to get to the point where they're moving from theory to applying some of the information that they've put together, whether it's posters in the airport. And it's not just going to be Air Marshals, FFDO posters. And they're saying, just thanking, it's just simple, no threat, but just to the traveling public, because we want them to be safe and comfortable in their travels, but just a poster of a pilot walking down the hallway saying thanks to the FFDO program for making our skies safe today. And then maybe 4 passengers and then saying thank you to the Federal Air Marshal Service for making your flight safe today. They've come up with some great ideas. This is just in theory right now. We haven't even talked to any of the air carriers out there, but maybe at the end of a flight saying, just wanted to say thank you to the men and women of FFDOs and the air marshals out there for providing safety to our friendly skies today, and something like that, just to get it out there. Just that you go to the pool during the summertime and there's those FBI and Secret Service T-shirts everybody's wearing. Getting some T-shirts out there so people go, oh, air marshals, yeah, they're out there. FFDOs, they're out there. We need to do more publicity to get our cause out there. That is a deterrence. It's a tremendous deterrence out there. So some simple things that we're working on, getting some videos in the airport out there. It serves as a good recruitment as well, but also as a means of deterrence out there for the flying public.
So Mr. Sarandrea needs to go, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and close up. I want to thank each of our panelists for discussing their views and vision for this absolutely essential program. Over the last 2.5 years of the program, it has flourished under the leadership and guidance of Mr. Lay and Mr. Kraus, and I'd like to personally thank each of them, as well as Bill and most of the FFDOs in here. We thank you for that. With the realignment of the program under the Office of Law Enforcement and the outstanding leadership team they have in place, we're confident that the program is going to continue to be enhanced, and it's going to continue to be a vital part of our transportation security infrastructure. As of this morning, we all know one example of those enhancements was the approval of the KCM. If you're an FFDO in the audience, you've probably already got your message saying there's a new message on the dashboard. I'd say we probably need to take a look at that, and again, I want to thank the current leadership team for that. As we close up, I want to remind everyone why the FFDO program was established. On September 11th, 2001, coordinated terrorist attacks devastated our country and our industry. Over 3,000 innocent Americans, including flight deck and cabin personnel, were killed. It's my sincere hope that our discussion today reminds us of those we lost and why we must continue to look at the ways to enhance our security both today and in the future. With that said, every one of us has a vested interest in the continued success of the program. We welcome positive improvements, more responsibilities, and the continued expansion of the program. Because, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, at the end of that layered approach to security is the individual FFDO. When all else fails, he or she is that last line of defense. Thank you for your attention today. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Let's all get some birthday cake. We'll line Jesse up for spankings.